I wanted to talk about some of FF14's greatest moments.
We have compiled a list,
like some of the highlights, some of the high, the high moments that FF14 has achieved is not just a story or a narrative, but as a game.
Yes.
Some of the events that they've put in, while they may not be currently terribly populated, when they first came out, were very high praised by the community, very well received by the community, and I think it might do us to try to inject a little bit of optimism here into the show.
That's right. FF14 hasn't always been a terrible game,
which is why I feel like I need to remove myself from this discussion.
What? If I have to suffer through this, so do you.
Good luck, guys.
I get Nate's seat. On your seat.
No.
Wait, but what if a caller calls?
Don't use my real name!
What if a caller calls?
I'm just getting a drink, you jackass. Jesus.
Well, I
You
didn't
dumb
know that.
shit.
God damn.
Piece of shit.
Well, hey, will you get me some Pepsi?
Fuck shit.
Thank you.
Lick shit.
Shut up.
Shut shit. Oh.
That wasn't you.
I just see him mute someone. I just assume it's me.
All right. So, yes, we have compiled the 14 best moments of Final Fantasy XIV. Now, there aren't just 14 moments in FF14. There are tons of them, okay? And these aren't in any particular order either. It's not like we have an absolute best or, second best or whatever. It's just a bunch of moments that we thought were a boon to the game as a whole. Now, we would also like to encourage you guys to call in. Do you disagree with something on this list? Is there something that you think we overlooked? What would you add? What was your best moment? Get a hold of Kooky Persona, the Firewall. Let her know that you'd like to talk to us, and we promise we won't be mean.
Kooky the Firewall Persona.
That's right. So,
I like it.
we start at the top of our list here. One of the best moments of Final Fantasy XIV. Now, this is kind of a bit general. When we were discussing some of these points, there was quite a few things that happened in quick succession that I decided we would just put this whole thing on there. And that was the end of A Realm Reborn. So that is 2.55. That includes things like...
So when the game just ended, that was the best part of Final Fantasy XIV, when you could stop playing it.
Yeah, we haven't got there yet. So that includes the death of the Sultana. That was huge. So many people were butthurt about that. We are ignoring the fact that she came back alive, by the way.
Yeah, this is when we were living in 2.55.
That's
okay?
right. That completely ruined her death scene. But even the epic ending of, like, what the fuck happened to the Scions? Like, are they all going to die? Except for the stupid bullshit with, what was her name?
Minfilia.
Minfilia, yeah, just running back. But, like, the shit with Paplimo and Yida, when we saw, like, her eye and they're, like, getting ready to, like, fight all those dudes off, and then Y'shtola and Thancred down in the aqueducts when he took an arrow to the knee. Come on, those whole ending cutscenes, those were so great.
I think you meant when they were trying to beat all those dudes off.
Phrasing.
That's one way to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the way you should have said it, because it would have been funnier.
Yeah, but now you're in the joke because he didn't.
But that's one of the reasons why Heaven's Ward has felt like such a letdown, is because they set the bar so high with 2.0 and especially 2.55.
They really did. And I think that I think part of the reason why 3.5 may feel like there's not as much hype for it is because so many of the payoffs of those early shocks that we got at 2.5 haven't paid off long term. Like the thing,
the pacing for 3.0 was very disconjointed.
Like the thing with the Sultana, I think, is the first thing that I think of when it's like, okay, well, maybe we'll see some characters die, because a character death, beyond serving as an interesting plot point, provides a lot of character motivation. And we've seen character death be used to the advantage of the narrative. Hearts and Farts being a good example, Ysayle being another one.
Moonbreeder being a bad one because she should die.
Well, shut up.
No, but that's only she's only a bad one because she's a Rogadin.
No,
That's fair.
Had she been any other race, it would
she
have
was
been
good
fine.
motivation
No, wait,
for
I would have felt
Urianger.
it.
What if she was a Lalafell? You'd have felt that?
No, I definitely would have felt that. I wouldn't have felt that.
Okay, so Rogan or Lalafell. But if she was a hot chick,
That's
Like
right.
a Mikote.
like if we were losing like tits,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boobs McGee.
yeah,
I love
who never
boobies.
died.
She didn't. No, she didn't. She lived through that whole escapade. Anyway, but yeah, that's the thing, is that so many of those narrative punches that we thought would be long lasting weren't. And I'm not just talking about the Sultana. I think that there's a lot that they could have ended up doing with Estinian that they didn't end up doing. Like there was a lot of setup and thought of where Estinian's story was going to end. And I think the fact that it didn't end, that they just keep the character going and leave the possibility open to bring him back, I think that took a lot of like the narrative importance out
Especially because it doesn't seem like there was any lasting impact on him. He's just like, oh, I'm okay now.
Oh, look,
cool.
Hey, I'm no longer Nidhogg. Look at that. That's crazy. Look at that shit. That's crazy here. I was Nidhogg 1 second. Now I'm not no more. Look at that. Holy shit.
Are you even trying?
That's Estinian's voice. That's canon. That's Estinian.
Please, Square Enix, you got to bring me in to do the voice of Estinian for the next patch, all right? Come on now. It's fucking crazy, right? Like I was a fucking dragon. I was a fucking dragon. Do you guys not fucking understand? Do you not understand? Do you not get it? Am I speaking a different fucking language? Did fucking juxtaposition set my language settings to fucking Icelandic or some shit? Do you not get it? I was a fucking dragon.
Like wings and a tail?
Dragon.
Greatest conversation ever.
Oh my god. That's what they should have done with Estinian. That's the true reason I'm mad, because I've got a better characterization for Estinian than they could ever come up with.
That's so good. Show's over, guys. We're ending it right there on a high note.
So that was number one best moment of Final Fantasy 14.
You know what? I can't believe that we don't have any callers that want to talk to fucking Estinian about the fucking fact that I was a fucking dragon. I was a fucking dragon over here.
All right, next best moment of Final Fantasy 14, Titan Extreme as he was needed for the relic weapon.
This was great.
Yeah.
This was so great to have such a hard challenge wall put in front of you.
Right at the start, too.
It felt like old FF11. It felt like one of those challenges that was like necessary for advancement, and you needed to be plugged in. It made it feel like the entire ecology of the game was going to rely on skill to be able to advance. Ha! And it didn't stick around very long.
Since then, have we had anything even close to this?
Nope.
No. They've put in hard stuff.
Yeah.
But none of it felt like a necessity. Like I had to get that shit done.
Yeah. Like if I don't
That was the only weapon.
And it actually didn't even last the entire length of that weapon.
Well, no,
either.
I'm not going to say that, Juxta. I actually think that the relic was a little bit like that. But until I think it was once we started to see where the anima was going, that the anima was not going to break the pattern that the relic weapon fit into. Because again, there was a lot of expectation for the relic weapon to eventually end up outclassing all of the raid weapons, right? So everyone had this idea that I've got to be working on a relic weapon because I don't know where that this is going to end up progressing to.
Right. That's what I'm kind of saying, is that the relic weapon was the only weapon, basically choice at the start of 2.0.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
That's why it felt like a necessity.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We didn't know, I'll just wait till the next patch.
But the thing is that they weren't hiding it behind like hard mode fights. Walling that behind an extreme mode fight, and even like one of the fights that was considered at the time the hardest in the game. Putting a wall there in that challenge was something that they never did again in that relic weapon process.
And any relic process.
At any step in the line. And I think it's really unfortunate and really detrimental, because if you know what Square Enix has really failed to do? This just clicked with me. You know what they really, really failed to do?
Like a clicker.
They've failed to set their audience. They failed to set their audience's expectations so that their audience keeps guessing.
Yes.
We've been able to peg down what the content structure is going to be through Stormblood, throughout, the interviews that Yoshi P has given. But if your audience can get one step ahead of you in knowing what your structure is going to be, if you can't surprise your audience, then I don't know how you can. As a creative person, like that's
how do you keep your fans?
Yeah, like how do you honestly keep your audience?
You
Like,
all fucking suck, by the way. I said Titan Extreme for the Relic. You only needed hard mode. I tested you all. You too, Nika. Way to go.
Sorry,
Way
I
to
kind of
go.
just totally missed it, but it's all good.
I wasn't paying attention to what you were saying.
It doesn't
for
matter.
the original Relic, yeah, you only needed
It doesn't matter.
I think that actually speaks more to the difficulty of it.
Hang on. Hang on, because at the time there wasn't any extreme modes. When you had to do Titan
There
Hard
wasn't.
mode, Titan Hard mode was one of the hardest fights.
Yeah.
Titan Hard mode was considered a fight that was like one of the hardest in the game
I will
at that
forever
point.
say, like, what was it? Extra Life that year, Siren spent like 10 hours of Extra Life just doing Titan Hard because nobody had the relics, nobody had strong enough weapons. It took forever.
Right.
And
Exactly.
yeah, that's why
That's-
Titan was one of the best moments of FF14.
So forgive me for misremembering that experience was actually hard mode and not extreme mode.
Forgiven.
That hard modes were actually hard at some point.
They were.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, again, like, I think that sort of speaks to the problem that Square Enix has not been addressing for so long, is that so much of this content you can just power past it, or you can just push stats past it, or put level past the challenge, and then it becomes suddenly it no longer has the weight that it used to. And when you toss it out, like when Titan Hard is at one point considered the hardest fight in the game, but by the end of that expansion cycle is one of the easiest. I think that there's actually a fucking problem there that the developer's not addressing. And again, and I'm going to go back to this again, that the fact that we as fans and we as an audience can even see where the next moves exist, not even in a narrative sense. Like a narrative sense, yes, we are guessing. But in terms of the content structure, because that's the thing that really keeps people rooted in a game, I think that's why we've seen so many people become dejected with the content and disengage from the content, is because they're not, like, we know what to expect already. I don't need to do the anima because I know that the anima is going to keep exactly the same eye level pace with the raid weapon, and it's not going to break convention. It's not going to break the mold that they've set up for themselves. They follow their own rules too goddamn much.
Yep. Next on the list, the first implementation of the hunt. What the hunt did for the community, like, it turned it on its fucking head. I know there was a big, obviously a huge contingent that was like, the hunt has made us so toxic. But still, it made shit happen.
Yeah.
It brought the community. Excuse me. It brought servers together.
Can you imagine if Square Enix added hunts right now? You know what they would probably do? They would probably remove the chat feature while you're in party. Square Enix, that was one of the dumbest moves that you could possibly make, was removing the chat channel from your PvP. It was undoubtedly a bad decision that has negatively impacted PvP. And if you were smart, with 3.56, you would reinstate the PvP chat.
Do you guys know what we had with hunts? We had infamy on servers. Who remembers Sun Gohan?
Sun Gohan.
Sun Gohan.
Sun Gohan, you
Yes.
wily bastard. If you're still out there listening, if you listen to this show,
Give us a call. Say what's up. Send an email.
call in and shove the phone up your butt.
Oh.
I guess that.
Because I don't know what that would sound like. I'm kind of curious. I don't know.
I'm not curious at all, actually.
Just like that.
I'm going to move on to the next one. The characterization of both Estinian and Ysael throughout the launch of Heaven's Ward.
This is true.
Yes. Now, particularly
Throughout the launch. Just,
Right.
I mean, the launch.
yes, that's very specific.
Keyword there, launch.
But
The first few story arcs.
what is also special about this is when we think of, like, beloved characters or characters that we like from the game throughout Heaven's Ward, they also existed in 1.0 or
Sure,
2.0. And now,
sure.
yes, Estinian was technically there as well. But as like the greater community, unless you were a retard that level Dragoon, you probably didn't really know much about Estinian. And the fact that they were able to grow those two characters to mean what they were to the audience in a shorter time than we have been, getting to know the Scions.
Sure.
I thought was a great boon to their writing.
I'm going to actually just say that Ysael overall as a character, period.
Yes.
I mean, Ysael's entire arc was great, and it didn't hang out for too long. Like, that's the thing about Estinian. Because he didn't die, now I'm sick of the character.
Oh, yeah. If he would have died
If he comes back in any way, shape, or form, I'm gonna be like, this sucks. This sucks right here. He should have died. Yep. It's like if Kurt Cobain had been able to make music beyond 27, I'm sure that he would have made a Christmas album, and everyone would have fucking hated it.
Aww.
And everyone would have gone, why didn't this guy blow his brains out at 27? That's the same thing that you're going to start thinking about Estinian, because he turned into a fucking dragon. And then I turned back, and then I can come back and go, hey, I was a dragon. Fucking stupid. Just let him die. Just let the character die. There was not that much attachment to him in the first place.
Yep, I agree.
He was a prick, but he knew.
Amphenol, that was cool.
Yeah, but he was like a prick that had a way to worm himself into our hearts.
Exactly.
The reason
the way that
why,
he interacted with the other characters was very,
I think,
interesting, and he grew a lot as a character too.
Because I think that he provided a good foil to Ysael as well.
Yeah.
They absolutely did.
Yeah. But I think the narrative punch for Ysael was perfect. The fact that they haven't pulled it is also great.
I know. Oh, so good.
I hope that they don't.
Hold on to your butts.
The fact that she was a primal and seen as an antagonist for like at least 2 patches leading up to Heaven's Word, I thought was a stroke of narrative brilliance.
Well, one of the first emotional punches that hit me during Heaven's Ward was when you and Ysael meet with Raish Velgur for the first time, and he's like, you're not Shiva.
Right.
And like she basically realizes, oh shit. Like I felt that through her.
Right.
Like that was, it got me in my heart feels, guys.
And that's the thing, is that since then I don't feel like anything has been executed with that much, that much flair or that much style, that much grace. Like those, I thought that was so well executed that it was almost difficult to watch as Estinian got turned into a fucking dragon. And then, once you defeated him, you were able to turn him back. Yeah, God. Like that really, I thought that was just such a narrative slap.
I mean, I thought it would have been a nice feel if he turned back, but you still couldn't save him. And
yes,
that would have been fine.
And you actually had to say goodbye to him as you were killing him. I thought that's what I was sort
Even
of
if
like.
Emmerich would have done it. Remember we talked about wanting to have Emmerich have to like.
That's sort of what I was set up for. That's what I was set up for and ready for. And you can subvert an audience's expectations. That's fine. But when you do it, you've got to do it in a satisfying way. And letting him live, I'm telling you right now, not satisfying character arc, because he's going to come back and he's going to have plot armor and you know what I mean? Like,
if you have a choice between killing a character and letting them live, always kill the character. It's always a more interesting choice.
I think you're right.
But
I think you're right.
But Estinian can't die because he's part of the Dragoon quest.
He can die in the future.
Yeah, what? Everybody knows that if you're doing the original 1 to 50 quest, it takes
the time bubble.
Yeah, because I mean, remember that period of time where like, oh, but if you do the cooking quest, the Sultana's dead, haha, but you're making a feast for her, haha. Like you just know that's not
right. That's like saying because Ysael's
that's
dead.
Square Enix's thought process.
You can't do Shiva X anymore because Ysael's
right.
not around.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Well, that's different. That's a primal fight.
You get to so far in the storyline and it shuts down all of the Shiva battles.
The heretics
that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Got too many more crystals and they summon Shiva again.
It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Shiva's still alive.
You dumb idiot. Anyway.
Next on the list, the Binding Coil of Bahamut as a whole.
Yes. Yeah. I'd say that.
Mika, you want to share a few words on the Binding Coil?
I'd say that while there are some fun and interesting mechanics in the current tier of Alexander, I think looking back on each as a overall experience, I don't know, maybe that's because it was new and it was the first raid, and so a lot of the mechanics they introduced were new and not boring yet.
Well, it's not even just mechanics. I mean, look at the design of the different areas.
I think
the story definitely was way better.
Oh, the story was so much better, especially because it directly connected back with 1.0 and one of the more interesting things that ever happened in 1.0, the Calamity. There were so many interesting things about the binding coil, because I think that was the sort of the central mystery, like what happened during the Calamity or just after the Calamity. And, that was one of the central questions for anyone who had played 1.0, and something that they had to address. They couldn't drag their feet on addressing. And the way that they did it and the way that they executed it, especially with that also being our first point of contact for the Allegan culture, such a smart idea, because you're almost overwhelming your players with the amount of input that they're receiving, and they can't even figure out what is relevant from a narrative perspective until you get the entire picture painted for you. I like those kinds of narratives. I think that those are fun. And I think that Binding Coil of Bahamut executed that almost flawlessly. From raid design to fight design to challenge level. I mean, like, Binding Coil was right on the mark.
Yep. My favorite thing about Binding Coil was how the narrative helped to fill in pieces of a Realm Reborn story arc overall. Whereas, Alexander was just like, here's a new story about some people you've never fucking met, and after you're done with this, you will never fucking see again.
Yeah. It really did. Hey, here's this thing that exists in a bubble. It's in not even a metaphorical bubble. We've literally put it in its own fucking bubble on the map. And guess what? That could be that. It really is a metaphor for how disconnected Alexander felt to the rest of the world, as opposed to the Binding Coil of Bahamut. Yeah. Binding Coil of Bahamut felt intrinsically connected. You felt like you were answering a mystery that was fundamental to the world and to one of the biggest events that has ever happened in it.
And you know what? You also mentioned too, like how that was our first introduction, our first way to learn about the Allegan culture.
Yes.
What they should have done with Alexander is if they would have tied Alexander to the destruction of Idleyshire, because it used to be a Charlayan, part of Charlayan. If they would have somehow tied it into the destruction,
so instead of it being a love story with that one chick and about or whatever, it would have actually given us details about world.
Exactly what happened there.
Yes,
that'd have been so fucking cool.
I agree. I totally agree, because even in the Dravanian hinterlands where you can enter Alexander, it's a very broken up, very, there's existing structure there. You're right. That's all very interesting when you kind of look around and you kind of explore the place. It's one of the more interesting zones that lends itself well to exploration. You're right. They could have somehow intrinsically connected it to that zone or to that area.
Yeah.
Because I had so many questions about that area the first time I came into it.
No, the goblins are just like, yeah, Charlia used to be here, but this is our digs now. And we're like, oh, okay.
And they're just like, metal guy. Look at that. Like, there really is, like, there's just, like, nothing. There's nothing that roots it to the world.
And do you remember the first time that you saw that huge structure? You're like, oh my God, what is that?
Right.
It's going to be so fucking epic.
And again, you have to walk into the goddamn metaphorical bubble. I mean, actually, in this case, it's quite literal goddamn bubble that you have to go into to be able to participate. I mean, how much more representative do you have to be of how that content was received? Holy shit.
Yeah, revelations. Still talking about Coil of Bahamut, specifically turn 9 in Coil, I feel like gets a lot of love.
Turn 9 was one of the best design fights.
It had so many mechanics, like so many. Like,
do you think that fight could fit into? I forget his name now, but from FanFest said that when they're designing fights, that the idea is that it must be able to be explained in 60 seconds.
I don't think you can explain that in 60 seconds at all.
Yeah, probably not. But again, you're facing off with Nail, a great callback to 1.0. And even those that didn't play 1.0, this was an incredibly satisfying storyline for them. I mean, just Nail's armor alone, he cuts a very imposing visage. You know what I mean?
But this Nail is like his girlfriend who's taken him.
Yeah, we know.
Like,
well, but that was Nail even before the Calamity.
yeah.
Nail was always his sister, right? I think it's his sister.
I thought it was his lover.
No,
Maybe it
I
was
don't
his
think
sister.
so. I thought it was. I
Why
thought it
not
was
both?
relative.
Hashtag
I can't remember. I read it in the lore book. Not
Yeah, it's been so long ago that I read the entry in the lore book that it's hard for me to remember. But yes, that was even him before the Calamity. He was killed very, very early on. At any point, like at a point before any of our characters met him. And that, either his sister. Yeah, it's his sister.
Yeah, well, this discussion alone just sort of illustrates the differences between Alexander and Coil Bahamut. There are things in Coil of Bahamut that have like such long-standing and deep-rooted connections to lore.
We needed the fucking lore book to explain why Nail was a chick. That was a fucking mystery.
Yeah.
And I have to say, good on Square Enix for not coming out and explicitly explaining that, because there were so many questions about it, for not coming out and explicitly explaining that. Now, granted, that is how anyone could have picked up on that through what we're given, through context that you're given in the game, would have been impossible.
We'll have to talk to Ethis about that.
I don't know.
He'd be the one.
I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure.
But when you look at all the different fights and all the bosses from Coil, and then you look at Alexander, there are two fights to me, not mechanically, but just lore-wise, that stand out. Alexander, obviously, and then the Arc fight, because it's basically inspired from FF9. The end.
What was the rest of anything in Alexander?
The fight with Quick Thinks was really awesome too.
There was
mechanically.
There was
the balls was cool.
Yeah, was
mechanically.
I loved having all those balls run towards me and brush up against me in a cold sweat.
You. Look, you're absolutely right. Binding Coil of Bahamut, very satisfying. Even to non 1.0 players, it was very, very satisfying raid. And a lot of, I think, again, the sentiment coming off of 2.0 to 3.0 was very high. People had a lot of expectations for Heaven's Word.
They outdid themselves.
And I think that those expectations have been lowered quite a bit throughout the entirety of Heaven's Word.
So. Next on the list, Thornton's trial design, the Knights of the Round. That was a big deal.
Why?
When Thornton came out, like being able to see the Knights of the Round. I mean, plus the extreme version of that, like that was one of the most fun and critical praise that a fight in Heaven's Ward at the time had gotten.
That's true.
That is true. I mean, what I remember was the shatter graphic, and was like going like, oh yeah, they're definitely going to use the shit out of that in extreme mode. I mean, it was a good fight. It was well received. Was that the first EX fight that we got in the Heaven's Word?
No, because we had Ravana.
We had Ravana and
Whale.
Bismarck. Bismarck right out of the gate. Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
EX Corona.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I never did the extreme mode, to be honest with you. I did.
Oh God,
I
it was
tapped
so
out.
fun comparatively to other battles.
I did it for a few times. Never actually beat it, but I mean, it did have one of the trappings that a lot of Heaven's Ward content was, and that was why bother?
I've done it like
It did.
47 million times for that fucking bird.
Do you have
did.
it?
Then you should have it by now, because you only have to do it 99 times to get the bird.
I think I do. I do have it.
She threw away the totems each time.
No. And this goes back to the thing that we were saying, is that when your content structure is predictable, when your audience can look at something and go, well, I know I don't need to do that because in 3 months I'll have this. Like, unless you subvert that at some point, unless you disappoint unless you piss those people off who are counting on that next tier of tone gear or that next tier of welfare handouts or whatever the fuck it is, if you can count on that, then you are doing a disservice to your community, because you're saying you have to find it within yourself to be engaged, to motivate yourself to play this game and to find the enjoyment out of it. And I don't think that that's a smart way to design a game.
No, it's not.
I mean, most of the games that I have fun with, I don't know why I'm having fun until long after I've stopped playing the game and I start thinking about its structure and the way that it's presenting its content. When I'm going through content, I'm not sitting there going, well, this is very poorly execute it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not until after I've gone through it and I think about how much I want to do it again or how much better I want to be at it, where I really get to sit down and think like, okay, this is how this piece of content impacted me, right? You've got to have time to see, okay, well, how engaged am I in it moving forward? Like, there is a timeline that you have to go through, especially with a persistent world and a persistent online environment where you can only hold your audience so accountable if they're not eating up what you're putting out. And if they're not eating up what you're putting out, then guess what? You've got to change the expectation. You've got to keep people guessing.
Yeah, no, that's definitely one way to keep people extremely engaged. Yeah. Next on the list, now Nate, Nir, I know this one isn't going to particularly be for you, but you can't deny the impact that it's had on the game and people, and that is the implementation of personal and free company housing. Even now, people clamor over this whole Kugane thing. People go crazy over when are we going to get Ishgard housing, and when we did finally get the Limit Break Radio free company housing, that was one of the best things in the game that happened for me. It actually made the game feel more alive for me.
I mean, I guess that's fair. Juxta, I'm pretty sure that this plays the biggest role in your FF14 playtime, is decorating and redecorating the house.
It's so much more fun to redecorate and glamour when people are looking at you and your house. Like, I can choose where to put sofas and stuff, and I watch people react to where I'm putting stuff. I'm like God now. And I like that. I'm the god of the LBR house.
And what does he do with his newly found power?
He makes a dick stage.
He makes a dick stage.
It's not a dick stage.
It is a total dick stage.
It's stage D, okay?
Oh, God damn.
That is in the shape
And
of...
D stands for.
It's the fourth iteration. Maybe I should call it stage A prime.
You know what? Maybe you should remake it and then rename it
Same with
Stage
A1.
E.
Stage Delta.
Yeah, or Delta, I guess that works.
Why does it look like a shaft with balls on it?
What?
Why do you have a white cum rug?
Why does it look like it's jizzing?
Because that's the most optimal place for feng shui for the rug.
Why is it white?
What?
Why is
Artistic
it
design.
white?
You need to... It matches the piano, you fucking pleb. It's like you don't know anything about interior design.
The piano's on the other side of the fucking studio.
Yeah, exactly. You need to intersperse the white throughout the entire
Yeah, you need
room.
to pull it all together. I see what you're
Why is nothing else white?
There's more white stuff in there.
Name one.
The pillars are
The pillars.
gray and white.
You can't change those colors.
It doesn't matter if you can change them or not.
But
the fact is
it's
they're
over
white.
the-
That's why
the
I
whole
chose
ambiance
them.
of the whole room.
It's a dick. It's a
No,
dick.
you're a dick.
It's a dick.
You're a dick.
All right. Next on the list is the implementation of the Gold Saucer and Triple Triad.
And Lords of Verminion.
That's later on the list.
That better not be on the list.
Nobody can deny how when Triple Triad came out that
It was a phenomenon.
that was basically it. They're like, oh, expansion's about to come out, and Square Enix is like, nah, let's make this a card game.
Yep.
People-
That's all I did for a while. That's all I still do.
People did Triple Triad so much that it actually had discouraged Juxta from participating in Triple Triad because everybody else got ahead of him.
No, it's just that Triple Triad is such a boring, basic game.
It's not about the
What?
game, it's about collecting the cards.
The game is fun.
The game is god awful. The only thing worse than Triple Triad is Gwent.
Get the fuck out of here.
I see where you went with that.
No. That was bad.
The drop liked it.
Next on the list, the original Steps of Faith.
Yes.
Explain
I
it.
mean, I would say in terms of experience, yeah. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I remember
that
sitting
was-
there actually like talking and say to people to team up and then go inside and like how many we wiped maybe 3 times before we cleared it. And then the sense of accomplishment was pretty damn good.
Never has something been nerfed as quickly as that was content-wise. I mean, the fact that many people were upset. See, first of all, that led to our Salted Earth episode, okay? And our Salted Earth episode was probably one of our biggest episodes. Like, so many people are like, we came into the Salted Earth episode. I started listening to you on the Salted Earth episode. The Salted Earth episode. That's when, like, Get Good really started to take off. Because I think that is when a lot of people, whether they realize it or not, that's when the people who did realize it were like, oh, shit. Like, we've kind of been pushed into this corner of the game or this corner of ourselves where we don't actually earn anything. Like, everything is just so god-awful easy. And the steps of faith, whether it was intended by Square Enix to be this or not, was the game, like, smacking you upside the head and being like, guess what? You're a fucking scrub. You actually suck at this game.
And the thing is that the whole moniker of Get Good and the whole that whole rant that was done on the Salted Earth episode is probably one of the most misunderstood pieces that we've ever done on this show. And basically what we were asking from Square Enix...
Love you guys.
Thank you, Chili.
Love you, Chili.
What we were asking from Square Enix is to keep the challenge that is issued across the entire community, to keep that challenging and difficult, and to not just arbitrarily lift that because there were some people who were upset about it. And the thing is that, like, this is a thing I think is true in media and in creative fields, really anywhere where you are getting feedback from an audience, is that people overcorrect. People overcorrect for negative criticism. And what they don't understand, which seems really strange to be saying about a company like Square Enix, who's been in business since the day I was born. But what I think they don't understand is that, like, look, the people who are dissatisfied with your product are always going to be the most vocal. They're going to shit. People love to shit on anything that they can. Mm-hmm. They like, the internet has just proven how much people like to shit on stuff.
If you hate something, you let them know. If you love it, you don't.
And this is not new. This is nothing new to human behavior. This is not something that the internet invented. I just think that the internet allows us to be shittier with each other on a way regular basis, on a way, a way more visible basis, and we just actually end up seeing people for who they actually are instead of, who they want to try to paint people as, or who they want to try to idealize people as. And the fact of the matter is like, no, everyone has the ability to be shitty. And when people are discontent, they're going to speak up about it far more than if they're content. Because if people are content, they don't want to complain. You know what they want to do? They want to relax. They want to laugh.
Their contention.
They want to have fun.
Content.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the people who are discontented. It's the people who are upset that end up running their fucking yap. And a lot of times that, and especially in this instance, it was the people who couldn't meet the challenge, who thought it was too hard. And that is, you know what? I guarantee you the people who are complaining that Steps of Faith was too fucking hard don't play this game anymore. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you that
or the people that would
on.
Pop in and, Steps of Faith, I'm going to leave now.
Right.
Yep.
Who fucking cares? You think that they've stuck around for a whole lot longer than, the people who were trying to get into rating at that time? Mm-hmm. No, doubtful. Doubt fucking full. So who's your actual audience, Square Enix? Is it the people who you think are discontented with what you're doing, or is it what's the metric that you're using to measure sentiment? Because I think you're looking too much at forum posts and not enough at login numbers, not enough at completion rates, not enough at, like other data that can measure sentiment and engagement better than just these shitty forum posts. Because that's all it was. Like, at the time, that's all it was a sentiment that existed in some forum posts. Mm-hmm. And it's insane that was able to take the challenge out from under so much of the content. Because think of how often the goalposts are moved by Square Enix. They're moved all the time. Everything gets easier. And now Square Enix is backed into a position where the player base expects it. The player base expects, anima restrictions to be eased. They expect things to be eased as they go in time, and not a natural evolution, not a natural, you statistically out-level the challenge, or you just in raw levels out-level the challenge.
They just straight up nerf the challenge.
They straight up take the balls out of it, and they announce it proudly on the lodestone, and everyone goes, man, fuck this. It's so, and that's what really Get Good was. It was a way to say, look, there's a considerable contingent of players out here saying that instead of tailoring the content to our needs, that the community and that our fellow player base should accept the responsibility of rising to the challenge. And if you can't get there, guess what? You're going to have to wait 3 months, 6 months, whatever that fucking that patch cycle was, to be able to outgear that challenge. Yep. And if you don't make it, you don't make it. You run up against that wall every fucking day. And if it's demotivating, fine, it demotivates you. But there's this other thing that developers do where I think that they just get so wrapped up in their narrative presentation, and if it's a wall that keeps people out from completing the narrative, or some kind of cutscene that somebody spent 60 hours or however long working on, that there's a reluctance to let that stay hidden, to let that stay inaccessible to any amount of your player base. And that alone, that is frustrating as shit. That is frustrating because I don't know how to fucking fix that. I don't know how to answer that problem of we just had 20 people plugging away at this cutscene that we want to ensure that the entire community can see, but we need to put it behind a challenge hard enough that encourages players to rise to the challenge and not just keep asking for a continually easier game, because that's the slope that you end up on. And look where we're at.
You want to talk about a slippery slope?
Look where we're at. No. I mean, it's been about a year and a half since they made that Steps of Faith nerf. I mean, look where the game is. Is there any doubt that this game has gotten easier, that the challenge has been taken out of it, or that the monotony has been worked into it? I think that is a really tough, a really tough argument to argue against. I think unequivocally it is. It is easier. It is less challenge. The community is more complacent now than ever. Queuing with people queuing with randos is fucking infuriating, because some of them are so goddamn coddled and so it's just so fucking irritating for me personally as a human being to interact with half of this goddamn community.
No, I agree.
Because half of them are these fucking people that wanted these stupid nerfs, wants everything to be easy. They don't want to have to think about anything. They don't want to have to challenge themselves. They don't want other people to have to be challenged.
And it's affecting everybody else too.
And it's fucking boring.
Wake up, yo sheeples.
Listen, it's boring to the tune of everyone is walking out the fucking door. Am I wrong about this? Am I the only one that's logging into empty fucking servers? No, I'm sure I'm not. So, I mean, for all of you people who want to, call me cynical or an asshole or mean or whatever, it's fine. That's all valid. But at the same time, I haven't been wrong. I wasn't wrong about fucking Steps of Faith, and I'm not wrong now. Objectively, you measure between then and now, we have, half of that player base? 3/4, maybe, if you try to stretch it? I don't know.
Bad.
Square Enix is vague about the numbers.
Bad.
But it just, in terms of, logging in every day, I feel it. I feel the less people on every fucking day.
Yep. Next on the list, the Time Freeze portal on A12 and the story connection there.
That Sly Bandit going, fucking Belmung isn't empty. You know what?
Yeah, because they have a cock in their ass.
Get out. Bandit. you know that that's not an option. Shame on you.
Balmung is its own game.
Never bring up Balmung in a positive light.
Yeah. But probably one of the only cool things from the Alex story was that whole reveal that, oh, look, we got to go back in time and save ourselves.
Except only if you're a DPS. If
Yeah,
you
it was kind of
weren't-
lame. but,
Excuse me, I've had fucking healers try and gank my little teleport bubble. Fuck them.
That's pretty funny.
Fucking,
Good- that's
I mean,
good
fucking
troll.
Zemless.
In X mode, that you actually have 2 DPS, a tank, and a healer going, so it's a little bit different at least. So now I do get to see it, but it is kind of lame that because they actually use it as part of the storyline, and after you complete it, they say, "Did you see what it really was?" And you can click yes or no, and I'm like, I didn't actually see it. I only know because someone told me.
Well, you know what? There you go. Digital exclusivity.
No, because it's such an important part of the story. It's like the only cool part about the story, and only half the party got
Yeah.
to see it.
Okay, well, you know what? Tanks and healers get good stuff all the time, like insta Qs and whatever. This is DPS's shit.
Look, the only other thing that was good about the Alex storyline, in my opinion, was
Being teabagged by Alex.
Fucking the R at the end.
the horn.
Oh, right.
The horn
yeah.
from
Horn of
1 point.
Trebuchet.
Yes.
But that doesn't count because only
Trebuchet.
1.0 players would know what that is. Shut the fuck up.
Horn of Trey Bucket.
It totally counts because
Trey
Coil's story was also connected to 1.0, so you shut the fuck up.
Yeah, totally.
Nika, that was sarcasm because you were like, oh, it doesn't count if everybody can't see it. It sucks.
No, but everybody gets to see the horn.
Next on the list, the Ozma fight and the lore implications of what Ozma actually is.
Yeah, legit. Ozma's fucking one of the coolest things in the entire game.
Yep. The
One
World
of,
Eater.
one of the coolest things ever. I mean, like, it's responsible for
The destruction.
absorbing Nim.
Yeah.
Whew, that's
That
pretty
was
cool.
a huge one.
That's pretty goddamn
I remember
cool.
when you like broke that to us. You were like, "Holy shit, you guys! Did you know?"
Yeah. Ozma was pretty perfect.
Yep.
Let's go to our phone lines real quick and talk to Toki Renwind of Ultros. What's going on, Toki?
Hey, not much, guys. I'm first time caller. I've been listening since like 2006.
Welcome.
Holy
Legacy listener.
yeah, since 2006, that was the first year that we were making this show.
That's
So
right.
that's a long goddamn
That's
time.
the beginning.
What the hell's wrong with you?
Why did you not reach out to us?
You idiot.
I have anxiety.
Well,
Oh, well, welcome. We're happy to have you here.
I just wanted to talk about easier context regarding Steps of Faith because I beat it as a white mage when it was quote unquote hard
He
and all these
soloed
fucking
it.
plebs whining
soloed it
and
as a
crying.
white
It's
mage.
too hard to do. I'm like, shit, dude. You just learn the mechanics, get it down, boom, you're done.
yeah, and that's the thing is that for all of the complaining that was being done, it was a kind of challenging fight, but it wasn't really that challenging. Like, for the amount of complaining that was happening, I understand failure rates were fairly high, but at the same time, it was doable. It was totally reasonable.
And it really was just execution errors because,
Yes.
like, all the
Yeah.
cannons and
With the stupid dragon killer, they
dragon
mixed
killers,
with it.
that was all stuff independent of your gear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you
It
didn't
didn't matter.
If you didn't do those, then you lost. And if there wasn't someone who was explicitly like, I know what I'm doing and I'm going to do those, you'd lose. And everyone thought,
Right.
oh, this
Yeah.
is too hard.
Yeah, like my free company at the time when I was on another server, we had a countdown of what we did when we did the cannons at a certain time. So all the mobs just died at one fucking shot.
Right. Yeah. And see, like, again, it was not that complicated of a concept. Maybe it took a couple of times for people to really understand, and it was pretty key that you engaged the dragon killers. But then after the nerf, it was like, do whatever you want.
Just kill it.
Do what
Right.
Estinian came in and was like, do whatever the fuck you want. It doesn't really matter. We're gonna kill this thing at the end anyway. There was
Well, yeah, another thing too about Estinian, I was pissed he didn't die.
he should have died.
Right.
Straight up. He should have died.
And like, even though we all wanted it and we're like actually kind of expecting it, I feel like it still would have hit us in the feels in all the right
Yes.
ways. And we still probably, a lot of us would have cried, even though we
Yes.
kind of were hoping and thinking it would happen. It was
Not
like
me, it's
exactly
just a
what we
double
needed
back.
for that story.
It wasn't a subverted expectation. The way
It's
that
not like we wanted him to die because we hated him.
right.
Well-
We really needed that.
And it wasn't necessarily a foregone conclusion. And in that, like, you can listen. Setting a character death up in a narrative is something that happens a lot. You know, like, very rarely outside of something like maybe Game of Thrones, right? Like, does like a character death happen and you're just like, oh shit, like that came out of nowhere. Fuck. Like Game of Thrones is really good about the way that it subverts expectations with its audience and puts a character death out there. But most of the time, those beats are written into a narrative to
or
go,
even foreshadowed in some way.
Yes.
Even if you don't see it until afterwards.
and then subsequently executed with a good narrative punch. I can't tell if Square Enix was trying to subvert their audience expectations, going, no, let's not kill him because too many people are going to see it coming. Or if they decided, man, Estinian's too much of a face character. Too many people like him. We have to keep him around.
See, that's why I was hoping they would kill Emmerich, because he was a face character and it'd be a complete blow and a shock at the same time.
Oh, if Emmerich would have had to sacrifice himself to kill Estinian.
Yes, that would have been amazing.
And I mean, there was even a little bit of setup in that direction too. There was something. There was a setup to say that there was more to Emmerich and Estinian's relationship than we were led into believe. And then just reading it on its face, like looking at it and reading it on its face, when it's presented to you, like, it really just kind of wraps up in this like happy, like, and everyone's okay. Hey, look at that. I used to be a dragon. Hey, you know what I mean?
Another thing I noticed too, like with story, and they're like, well, this guy's going to die. But I was like getting sidelined, be like, how'd he die that way? You know?
Man, I just, there's so many, I think that they made a mistake with what they did with Estinian and Heaven's Word. So
right, and then the whole thing when Alpha Nod was crying at the end, I was like, "Come on, dude, grow a pair of testicles, man up."
Like after all you've been through, seriously,
drop your balls. Buddy.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Just be a little bit more. You've got several people killed and you didn't react like that. Come on, the guilt's not that bad.
Yeah.
He was like a brother to me.
Come on now. Anyway, thanks for the call, Toki. We appreciate it. Do you have any shout-outs that you want to give?
Just to my free company. You guys are awesome, and I like hanging out with you.
Awesome. All right, Toki, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. And you shouldn't be anxious to call the show. You got through it. It was a good call, too. You made a lot of really good points. And we didn't even make fun of you that much.
I called him an idiot.
Well, I mean, I said that much.
Okay.
So, anyway, if you want to call Limit Break Radio on Skype, 810-515-8715, limitbreakradio.com/Discord if you want to join in. Just a little bit, like about, less than 10 minutes left in the show. And we're almost through the end of this list.
Two more. And this next one isn't going to be long either.
But just on the Ozma point, you're right. Like that was something that was like set up for a while, and the way that they ended up putting that in, the fact that it was a reference, back to FF9, all of those things really just worked and also the design of the fight being really, really satisfactory too, and the fact, you know what, they fucking never nerfed Ozma. Nope. Come on.
Way to stick to your balls.
And so, like, honestly, like, that's confusing to me because Ozma was legitimately a pretty challenging fight. And all of
Nobody knew how to place those meteor things.
Not for a while, but you know what we fucking learned?
Got good.
Everyone knows now, right?
Good.
It's pretty like the DPS that you could put out now because we've got better gear, like it kind of compensates for some people not knowing. And I mean, that's the way that it's supposed to be done over time. I not to go back to the fucking Steps of Faith thing again, but I still can't believe that they would nerf something like that. And I think it's really only because it was in the MSQ and it was attached to the MSQ that it got that treatment. But you know what? Sorry, like, ask your community to rise to the challenge.
Or even give them a little bit more incentive. Add another 50 tomestones to it or something.
Hell, put a fucking item in. I mean, there was no gear that dropped out of that. That was a lot of work for very little tomes and literally no gear.
Yeah, put a little pet. Who was the dragon? Who was that?
Vishap.
Yeah, put a little Vishap minion. Someone gonna win a Vishap minion at the end of it. People have fucking done it then. Stuck it out.
A housing item like Vishap's head on a plaque.
That'd have been cool.
Kind of like the Ifrit head.
Yeah,
that would have been great.
Yeah.
Come on, Square Enix, we're doing your job for you.
Okay, it'll be
As
1.5 years in development.
Next on the list.
That's so mean.
Now this didn't happen in the game, but I think this is something that surprised everyone, and really everyone loves Soken anyway. But when Soken got to accept the Guinness World Record for most songs was it in an MMO or just in a game period?
I know it said it was in a game.
In a video game.
In a video game period. Yeah.
Yeah, in a game
Soken
period. That's
is
what it
fucking
was.
baller. That's why.
Soken's amazing.
Yeah.
Most original songs in a game.
That's what it
there
was.
it is.
Yeah.
Most original composition. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Not to mention, like, what was it, 140, 60, 80 something?
I thought it was more than
like
way more than
300 or
that.
something.
It's like in the 300s.
All right, yeah. So, like, out of all the crap that we give, like, Square Enix for, like, Final Fantasy XIV, Soken is exempt from that. Soken does his fucking job.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. And the music, the thing is that I don't think that there's many duds among them. I mean, granted, look, he did end up reusing the Heaven's Word melody a couple of times throughout a couple of different tracks, a lot in Heaven's Word, but overall, most of the tracks are pretty distinct from each other. All of them are really good.
Yep.
All credit to him.
And this last moment, which honestly, even though this is in no particular order, this is my number one moment because I can show this to literally anybody, whether they're a gamer, a fan of the series, anybody, and I always get the, oh shit, I should play that game from them.
You're like, no, you shouldn't.
And that is the opening cutscene with Susan's answers over the top of it of Bahamut's destruction.
Yeah.
Or do you mean the ending of?
It was
the ending of 1.0.
The ending of 1.0. Yeah.
Yeah. End of an era is what that is
that
referred to.
cutscene and song put together, always, even right now, with as disenfranchised as I am with the game, it always
Gives you the back tingles.
gives me the everything tingles.
Again,
The AMSR.
Well, I think it's anymore what that stood for. I mean, Square Enix was going back to the drawing board and saying, "All right, we're going to fix this. We know it's a problem. We're going to fix this," and making a promise to its fans and doing something that was totally unexpected and very, very daring. And I want to see that type of decision making continue. I want to continue to be as impressed with this game as I was when I saw the End of an Era cinematic. And I'm not going to go so far as to say I'm permanently let down, because I think that, an MMO is a unique creature. And the reason and the reason that we don't stop doing the show and that we don't tap out on Limit Break Radio is not just because we make money from it, you fucking haters, but the real reason that we keep doing the show is that all of this shit could turn around in a patch. All of this disengagement, all of this, cynicism can really be turned around in a hurry because of the nature of a ever-shifting game of an MMO and of an online game. I think that's what keeps us here. It's not necessarily Yoshi P, although I do think that Yoshi P is a talented human being, and I do want him to keep being the lead producer on this game. It's not Yoshi P that keeps us here. It's not even necessarily our fan base, because we've shown all throughout this episode that we can have open contempt for you, and you're not going to go anywhere, you fucking sycophants. And then it's not, it's not just, making money off this show, although that's nice. Juxta, what are we up to today in PayPal?
How much monies?
Yeah. You mean you don't have that open?
You're not up there jerking off
You're not
to it?
jerking it yet?
I have PayPal
there's
open. It's
two-
just not a total there.
There's not there's 2 minutes left in this show.
$117.08.
It's not just the $117.08 that you guys have given us to
It's
yell,
also 5,900 bits.
to yell back at us throughout the show.
No, it is the bits. Let's give it a minute.
in text to speech or any of the subscriptions. Like honestly, like real honestly here. It is the fact that, look, FF14 is a game that we've all loved and that we've loved since its inception. And
A Realm Reborn.
okay, but I'm speaking for myself. But it's a world that we've all loved, for a very long time, and that for as much disinvestment and for as much cynicism as we may present, and maybe the community may have, that a lot of the reason that people end up holding on to their subscriptions, holding on to this game, and not really being able to let go is because it can all change within a patch. Is it going to? Probably not. We have to reset our expectations, I think, a little bit as a fan base to go, what's reasonable for the dev team to really accomplish? But at the same time, I think the dev team is also a little bit complacent in their structure.
Hate us Maury, Spank us for being bad.
See, Chili gets it. But, you know, I think that Square Enix has a really big challenge in front of them to be able to hold on to their player base. Because I think that is the name of the game here. Expansion is not really in your wheelhouse. At this point, at this deep into the game, you need to quit losing players. You need to quit losing long-term invested players, and Square Enix need to go back and look at the way that you're structuring your incentives to be sure that we don't get complacent. Your structure has gotten complacent, which has made us complacent.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe that's, you can have a similar structure, but shake a couple of things up. There's definitely going to need to be some bigger shakeups than just adding UI elements on top of UI elements. And, it's going to require more than moving a couple of abilities around. There's going to need to be a lot of thought put into the way that you reward players and your player base and the way that you listen to feedback. And I don't care if you listen to this show anymore. I don't care if my opinion holds weight with you guys anymore. But this is a game that means a lot to all of us in this room, and Nika included, and listening to this show right now. And none of us want to be right about this shit. For all of the cynicism, none of us want to be right about it. All of us want to be proven wrong. All of the negative, cynical shit, at every single turn, Square Enix, you have the ability, with every update, you have the ability to turn it around. And you have the ability to prove us wrong, to prove our cynicism unfounded. You've done it a couple of times. And I know that you can do it again. And I hope that that's what you'll do for Stormblood. All right, guys, we got to get out.